Hey there, we're back again for another episode of Say What You Want About Real Estate. I'm Michelle Elliott, and this is my co-host,
Kristina Rodgers.
Thanks for watching, you guys. So today we're going to talk about ADUs. Last time we promised you we were going to tell you all about ADUs and our feelings about what kind of value it brings to you and whether or not it's worth it for you to put one in the back of your yard or whether it's good for you to purchase one. Okay, Kristina, so it was a hot topic last episode,
Yes.
And we ended with you saying if you had a detached garage, right?
Detached garage.
You would never, ever put an ADU in your detached garage. So defend yourself, girl.
So when I work with clients and we are looking at our spaces,
Yeah.
a lot of times what I see is if you have a detached garage, ADU, totally fine.
Okay.
If you have a attached garage and turning that into an ADU, that's where my clients don't like that.
I see. Okay.
They see it as like a whole. It's part of the home.
Right.
And so they expect to either store their things there.
Right.
Or leverage it as more of an informal space.
Okay. So let's give our viewers a visual, our listeners a visual. Okay. So if you have what we call front loaded garage, right? So you've got the front of the house, you have the garage in the front,
Right.
Usually 1 car, 2 car, right?
Yeah, usually 2 car.
2 car. Okay. So you've got the 2 car in there. That is when you recommend do not change that
Do
into.
not change that into an ADU.
Okay.
If you have the other floor plan where you have, for example, we have long lots, right? If you have a long driveway that's leading to your detached garage, that's a completely different space.
Okay.
And so from what I've seen, people consider that most people aren't driving that far down into their garage.
Okay.
Nobody wants to reverse their car 100 feet.
Okay, interesting. So, okay, I thought that you were saying the opposite. I thought what you were saying is that you felt that any garage conversion is a bad idea.
No.
You're just saying the front loaded garage, the attached garage is a bad idea. Okay. And it's because your clients are looking for a garage space.
Yeah.
So if it's in the front, they want a garage.
Here's the thing. When you have your garage and it's front attached,
Right.
You typically have a smaller driveway.
A short driveway.
You have a short driveway.
Right, you do.
So if you're not putting at least 1 car in the garage, and if you live on a street where it's a little bit busier in the evenings when people get home from work, it makes it a little bit more challenging.
Okay. So I just had a property that was like this. It was in Willow Glen. So Willow Glen, I think, is a little bit different, and I'm going to tell you why. So Willow Glen, we've got a combination of detached garages and front-loaded garages. But the issue is that most of them are detached in the old section, right?
Yep.
So I have a detached garage myself. So I think a lot of Willow Gleners are not used to parking in their garage, right? So
I mean, okay, let's talk about the garage thing. Because
Okay, go ahead.
As a native Californian, just cost of living in the Bay Area, a garage to me is what I call the equivalent of a basement for an East Coaster. Like,
amen. That's the California basement, right?
We can't afford a bigger house or a bigger yard. There's
Right.
a lot of us, right?
Right.
And we're living in suburbia. So I would say that the detached garage is absolutely, when it's in your backyard, it's recreational space.
Right.
It's anything you want it to be.
So I couldn't agree with you more. The detached garage is definitely the equivalent of your California basement. I think that space, the way we have it set up, it's still a functional garage, but the way we have it set up is just a kid's recreation space. It's our gym. It's just our all-purpose space. It's 400 square feet of free interior space, essentially, right?
Absolutely. And like, so, I have a front loaded garage at my house, and we like that to be flexible space.
Okay.
So at one point, did we have a car parked there? Yeah. We had an electric car and we needed to charge it. We had it inside the garage. The other half was my gym.
Okay.
And storage.
So typically everyone's going to use some portion of their garage as some kind of a flex space, right? That's what you're seeing with your buyers.
At this point, I don't have any cars in the garage and I'm taking up the entire thing with storage and gym.
Okay.
But we can do what we want with it.
Okay, so I'm going to give you a scenario. So I had a house. Now, this is tough. This is a tough one because it's in Willow Glen. Tell me what you think. What you think, okay? So I had a house in Willow Glen. It's 1,800 square feet. It was a 3-bedroom, 1 bath, 1.5 bath actually. And that half bath kind of, I had some objections on that. So there was an issue there. But also it had a garage conversion, exactly what you felt like you didn't like. I got a lot of objections on that. Okay. My seller had put in a huge shed in the back. So
Yeah.
in my mind, I felt like, hey, it's not going to be that big of a deal because it's sort of equivalent, right? I did not find that on the open market. I am finding exactly what you're saying, that there's something about that garage. Do you think that would be the case for your buyers?
100%. I mean, that storage in the back isn't really flex space. I'll tell you why. Because we all expect it to be perfect 75 degrees here. That's what we pay for. But a storage space, you can't use that as flex space. It's either too hot or too cold.
Okay, so there
It
is
is not the equivalent of a garage.
Okay, because when you have a garage, there is some like what do you call it?
You've got power, you've got installation, you might have windows.
Okay.
I mean, I have a window in my garage, the door, you've
Right.
got a window, you've got windows in your garage. It's a totally different feel for the
Okay, so
space.
let's hypothetically speaking, if it's a totally decked out, like kind of like like you had one of these, like a little office space in the back of your house. Well, you sold your house. How did that do on the open market? I think you told me you thought it did less than what you thought it was going to do.
It definitely did less than what we expected. I think it brought a lot of people to see the house. Did we get value for it? Not really, but we had a 10 by 12. Okay. So we had a 10 by 12. I wouldn't really consider it a full ADU. We didn't have any plumbing. We
Right.
didn't have a bathroom or a shower. But we
it
used
was-
it purely as an office.
Okay.
It was insulated. We had a mini split, so it had heating and AC. You know, we had the blinds and the fancy double pane windows and
Right.
the beautiful French doors. Aesthetically beautiful. I think it was very appealing here in the Tech Valley, in the Silicon Valley, especially after COVID.
Yes.
However, I think it was seen as like a bonus, not as
value add.
A value add.
Okay, so you think on the open market, your detached structure that was basically a detached office, you felt like was zero market value.
I felt like it worked for us for what we needed.
Right.
And so it was worth it. But I don't really think we got much value on it from the sale.
Okay, so when we're giving advice to our clients, just know, at least for now, because things change, right now what we're seeing is zero value add for any kind of shed or anything like that, right?
Yeah, converted sheds. And we had power in there, of course. But
Right.
at the end of the day, it's not living space.
Okay.
It is a 10 by 12 office.
Right.
With internet connection and power.
That people feel is a bonus space.
It's a bonus space, right?
Yeah.
You have kids, you work from home. Tons of folks are working from home now. So I think the appeal is there if the people searching for a home work from home, especially if they have children, because it's completely separate. It's the reason we built it.
Right.
Is working in our home no longer worked when the kids were home and young.
I think the difference, at least for our family, is that we use ours also as a guest space. So I think for your shed, the issue is you're not going to get an actual guest space out of that. Am I right?
Yeah. I mean, ours wasn't big enough to
Put a bed.
to put a bed in there.
Right.
Definitely with your detached garage that's 400 square feet, that's very good space. Like
Right.
I tell everybody, that's prime real estate. Why would you park a car in there? It's never going to snow.
Right. I mean,
know.
and we kept ours so it's sort of functional, not sort of functional. It's completely functional. The driveway's there. We still have the garage door. That's still
Well,
functional.
you did exactly what I said. You kept it a flex space.
Yes.
So if times change and your needs change, you could rearrange it and still fit a vehicle in there if that's what you wanted.
Okay, so let me tell you, it's funny because as realtors, we sometimes get calls from appraisers, right? So even if it's not our property, appraisers will call us and they want to know information about properties that have sold that is not out there. Okay, so we get a call and it goes like this: Hey, Michelle, I'm an appraiser. I'm appraising, a refi. I'm appraising a property for sale, and I need your input about this property. So this appraiser was specifically looking for a home that had a detached garage that was converted. So when they call me, I'm happy to help any appraiser. But I'm going to pick your brain too. So, and it's funny because I had this topic on my mind. So definitely I wanted to come back and talk about this. So I asked the appraiser, okay, since you have to find something with a detached garage that was converted, what value are you giving it? And she said,
Oh, dying to know because this is so hard.
okay, drum roll. She said, totally.
Sorry.
Yeah. She said zero value add. She said, essentially, if you were to keep it as a flex space, she could count the garage, which in that case she put
Told
50,000.
you.
I know,
told
nailed it.
You want to have that functionality
Yeah.
for either or.
Right.
You have to keep that either or functionality, because converting it, you didn't actually add square footage.
Right. No, that's true. That's true. You took away something.
You took away
Something of value.
Yep.
You took away something of value. And
100%.
what you and her issue mostly was that what people add back is something hanky janky. That was her, that's basically what she said. She said the issue is it's never going to be as nice as the interior of your home. She actually said if it was to the same level as the interior of your home, it's possible she could do a swap. You won't get full value. So like if we're calculating value, okay, essentially what we're going to do is like for appraisers, they use sometimes price per square foot, right? So when we're thinking of price per square foot, not always, and don't take this as like every home is price per square foot. In fact, we should do a podcast on that, price per square foot. I love that. Okay, we'll explain that too. But appraisers do use that in some instances for some things. And part of that has to do with whether or not you're going to count a ADU as with the same value in terms of price per square foot as you would interior square footage. And what she has said is if they're remodeled in the same way, so if you have a nice kitchen remodel and your ADU is remodeled in the same very nice way, yes, she could potentially see giving full value depending, right? If that is really a value add. But she said she never does. She never comes across that, right? Most of them are done kind of like...
And honestly, I've been working with buyers lately, and we've come across quite a few where garages have been converted, and the number one thing that's on the notes is easy to convert the garage back. Because they converted it to living space, and it's weird.
Right.
It's just weird.
They just do it in a really strange way, right? And actually I had, I was showing buyers just a couple weeks back, and they had basically sliced the garage in half and put up a wall. And one of the neighbors called it in. So just so you know, a lot of these conversions, if you don't do it with city permits, your neighbor could call it in and say, hey, you know, this is illegal. You haven't done this with permits, right? So when that happens, you can't sell the house like that anyways, right?
No, once you get flagged by the city, you're going to put it back in its original condition, and that's going to cost you.
Okay. So let's talk about, and you know what we didn't do is define ADU from the beginning.
Yeah, and that's where we should have started.
Because
that's where our miscommunication was, right? So
okay, yeah.
To me, an ADU is a space where you have some type of, like someone could live independently. So you have a kitchenette maybe.
Okay.
You got to have a bathroom.
Right.
And at least a standing stall shower, right?
Okay,
Like
yeah.
you would never need to enter the main home.
Right.
In order to live there.
So
that's what I consider an ADU.
Okay, as defined by, that's pretty much what the city says too. As defined by the city of San Jose, you've got to have a 3-piece plumbing fixture. So you need to have a sink, you need to have a shower and a toilet. That has to be present there, okay? And you need to have some kind of cooking element. And you need to have an independent entrance. So there's 2 types of ADUs that I can think of in the city of San Jose. And one of them is what we've been talking about, which is a detached unit. So either it's going to be a garage conversion in your backyard, or it would be something like a separate structure. And there's another type, which is the attached garage. Yeah. So tell us about the attached.
Well, there's the attached garage.
The attached ADU.
The attached ADU. Yeah. So an attached ADU, basically what that is it's a portion that's added on perhaps to the back of your home, but the entrance, let's say, is going to be through like the side yard. It has its own entrance. There's no combined space with the main portion of the home.
Mostly I'm seeing those in new construction. Right? Okay. So mostly in new construction, and I'll explain to you why. So if you come across a lot of homes that you see on the market and they're massive, and then you see that, one of the bedrooms is a separate unit. The reason why they're doing that is because the builder is trying to max out the square footage of the lot. ADUs have a different rule per the city guidelines. So there's much looser rules when it comes to your lot line, what do you call it?
Your setbacks.
Your setbacks.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Setbacks.
Your lot line setbacks. So there's a lot more leniency. You can get closer to your setback line to your neighbor's property. And they're in terms of your lot coverage. So the city is going to say, hey, you can only put piece of improved land or a structure for a certain percentage of your lot. But when it comes to ADU, the city is trying to make more housing. So what they've calculated is if you use a little bit more of your yard to house someone else in the community, even if it's your parents or whomever, at least we're getting someone else housed in the community. So they've loosened the rules on how much lot coverage you can have in terms of square footage on your lot. So that's why builders do it. They're trying to get more square footage so they can get the price up of the purchase price, because it's not going to cost them that much more to build.
It's a lot more cost effective to add on, I think, to your home that way than it is to build a completely detached separate unit.
Okay.
Because now you're moving plumbing, you got to take it across the whole yard.
Okay. So if we're thinking about all the different types of ADUs, and another one that I've come across before, and I've seen builders do this, is one where the ADU is on top of the garage. Okay. So you've got to walk above the garage. Okay. I'm seeing some perils here. All right.
Which is fine
Yeah.
if you're, in your 20s. But
Right.
are you going to have your aging parents living up an entire flight of stairs?
So that's part of the calculation, is that people, if you're thinking, okay, yes, I'm a person that wants an ADU. Part of what I'm thinking I want the ADU for is my parents, right? Okay.
I hear that from a lot of my clients. They're already planning to build ADUs for aging parents.
Right.
And so they want one story. They prefer detached for privacy. They love their family, but they're like, everybody needs a little bit of personal space. I've talked to clients that are looking at building ADUs, and they feel very strongly about it being detached and having its own front yard, if you will, so that everybody feels like they have their own separate
Privacy.
space and
Yeah.
a little bit of privacy.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. But they're kind of living separate, but they're living together.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Exactly.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. So multi-generational living, I think mostly that is the request from buyers. I don't hear people saying I'm going to rent it out to someone else in the community. I'm mostly hearing people putting kids back there. So adult children, right?
Yep.
A lot of people are concerned about the high prices now where their children are going to live. So ADUs, I actually just talked to one of my healthcare providers, one of the nurses I just saw, and she was saying, man, she has kids in college. Where are they going to go? Right? Main concern, right? People have. So their kids, their parents were in.
And I mean, if your kids are coming back and they're grown adults, like detached is probably the way to go for everybody's sanity.
Right. Yeah. No, absolutely.
They're grown-ups.
Right. Yeah.
Back at home.
I mean, ish.
Yeah.
They're grown-ups ish, right? Yeah, absolutely. Okay. So in your ideal world, we're going to have a separate unit, not the garage.
Absolutely.
Single story
Single story.
that has the same remodel quality as you have for the interior, and that is going to give you the most value.
Yeah, it's going to feel like it is just an extension of your home. It shouldn't feel like you just dropped something in there.
Right. Okay. So let's talk about this. Now, because the city has looser rules, one of the things they are allowing you to do is put more than one ADU on a lot. Okay. You and I both know someone, okay, that has a neighbor. I'm not going to say her name on here, but I'll tell you afterwards. Okay. Somebody in the industry, and I'm sure if she's watching this, she'll know who it is. She has a neighbor who has put more than one ADU on their lot. Okay, so they have a 2-story in one case, and then one attached unit. Okay, so they're really maxing out the square footage here. Their calculation is a little bit different. They think they're going to rent out the main house, they're going to rent out the other ADU, and then they're going to live in one of the smaller ADUs. Okay, financially, this seems like it could possibly work out, but on resale, what are you thinking?
I mean, I would possibly let somebody live in my ADU temporarily, maybe aging parents, but I don't want a bunch of people in my backyard.
Right, right.
That's the whole reason why I'm in suburbia. Like, I want my own privacy. I want a little bit of space. Is that not why we grow all the bushes to block out our neighbors? Because we are in close proximity.
Right, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
we don't have the luxury of acres.
That's the first thing I did. I literally told my husband, we have planted every plant here, and they're all
I
privacy.
love my neighbors,
Yeah.
but like, if I want to talk to them, I'll go over.
Right,
Like,
absolutely.
I don't need to see what they're doing from my backyard.
Right. Which is actually leading to a different point altogether, which is that a lot of people are having trouble with this ADU issue, right? A lot of people are saying, like, I don't want multifamily living in my single family neighborhood, right?
Well, and the other issue with like building multiple ADUs is, you're right, the city has really relaxed on the requirements. So what that means is, before they used to require that you had sufficient parking. Well, now they don't care.
Right.
They don't care if there's room in your driveway.
Right.
And if you're already living on a street that gets crowded in the evenings, now you have 3 units in one lot.
Right.
How many cars do those people have?
Yeah.
If you've got 2 couples and let's say 1 single person, you're probably going to have 5 vehicles.
No,
Where
absolutely.
are they all going to park?
Yeah. And on top of that, they've loosened the height issues too, right? So, or the height requirements.
Yes.
Yeah. So now you can have that 2-story ADU that's looking down into your neighbor's property, right?
And I just saw an article about that, about a 3-story.
Oh my goodness. Tell us.
Tell us. Built, and I can't remember. I think I was reading it this morning or yesterday, and they built a 3-story
Wow.
home.
In the city of San Jose?
I want to say it was in the city of San Jose. I'm going to have to look it up. And the city finally put a stop to it because it's just towering over the 1-story home next door. And by the way, all the homes in the neighborhood are typically 1-story homes.
Right.
And can you imagine your neighbor just like peering over your entire, I mean, you can't build enough, you can't grow enough plant or shrubage to cover that up. For privacy.
No,
It's
you
not
can't.
happening.
No, unless we're all like, having cypress trees from here to,
Well, those will grow
the
by the time we're
heavens.
dead.
Okay, so all right, I'm getting your drift. I'm feeling the exact same way. I think there has to be a good balance. I mean, I understand that we're trying to there's not as much housing as we need. I think that's the issue. So I know the state has really loosened rules to try and help with that. And frankly, we are going to have an issue with our kids just purely for the fact that their generation is large. Right. Yeah. They're large in numbers. Right. So in my generation, your generation's a little bit bigger, but my generation is on the small side. Right. So, so when we have, all of our Gen Zs coming online and they're trying to purchase homes, it's going to be trouble, right? Because we're still getting millennials into their first property. Millennials have been locked out to a large extent. So especially the younger ones. You're an older one.
Don't tell anybody.
Okay, yeah. So, I mean, I want to say that an ADU does sound like a good solution for some housing issues, but there's got to be some balance.
I think it's a really good solution for like us and our children as they get older. But I think that at the end of the day, nobody wants 3 ADUs on one property.
No.
It has to be done well. I don't think that the state is going to get what they want. I don't think people are building ADUs to house strangers.
No.
Listen, if there's a hardship and they have an ADU, they'll probably rent to a stranger.
Right.
Temporarily.
Right, yeah.
And the minute they're back on their feet, I guarantee you it's not going to be utilized that way because most people don't want strangers in their backyard.
Right.
And so they're not just giving housing to random people. Yeah, they're housing their kids.
Right.
They're housing
Parents.
their aging parents
Right.
or family member. And so that's very different.
Yeah. I have seen my clients rent out their ADUs, or recently I had one of my sellers rent out a basement that they had that was kind of set up in an ADU fashion, even though the entrance was through the home. And it was a close friend, but it was a separate person living in their property and they were renting it to them. So I do think that there is some time and place exceptions, but I think by and large, most people are going to have an issue with a stranger being on their property.
I don't want a stranger in my yard with my young children.
It could be a good solution though too.
But grandma and grandpa, absolutely help me out. I'm going to leave them there with you and then I'm going to go back inside.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Right. Exactly. Yeah. And I think that, for as we age though, it could be a really good solution to keep older people in these neighborhoods as well. Right. So if you do get to that point and you do think, all right, I could take on a tenant and that could help me offset the rent, I do think that that could be a good thing down the line.
I mean, and also if we're talking about our kids and building these ADUs, right? I think our generation is going to do a lot of that because of the cost of living here and younger adult children staying home longer. Mm-hmm. There's also the ability, which I think we'll see in the future, of you know, you and I moving into the ADU we built and our kids possibly moving into the main home.
I'm seeing
and I
that
think
too.
there's going to be that generational shift that hasn't been an available option because most people don't have ADUs.
I know.
But as we build them, I think we're going to do kind of a swapping of homes, if you will.
It could be that what we are seeing now is a shift in thinking when we think about multi-generational living. And I do see that coming across. I think people are more in favor of that. There's a lot of talk I've heard on the internet of people, you know, going in to properties with friends even and starting their own little, you know, I don't know what you call it, communities with multiple homes. You've heard of these on one. Yeah, it's a kind of a big topic, right? Yeah. So I think because of the expense of everything, people are thinking about, you know, utilizing the land and generational living a little bit differently. And I think that that could be a great solution, particularly if you have that one-story ADU. That could be a really big help.
And we're just getting very creative. So another thing, I don't know if you're aware of, but like the city now has pre-approved kind of semi-already made ADUs. So if you go on the city's website, you can see who's on that list. They build them out of state. They get inspected out of state. They bring them over. When they bring them over, what the city is having you do is build the foundation, the plumbing, and the electrical. You get all of those inspected before your unit is being done built at the factory. So you pass that inspection. And then once your unit is completed, they bring it over from out of state and you may have seen it. They take the crane and they drop it in the backyard.
Right.
All they're literally doing is connecting the electrical, the plumbing.
Yeah.
And you're set. And final inspection, the city comes in and just looks at the crawl space where all those connections are.
Right. So and sometimes they put them on slabs too, right?
Yep.
Yeah. So what we're talking about is prefabricated ADUs, right? So in a prefabricated ADU, you're going to build all of the walls, all of the other parts of the home. You're going to do all of the interior plumbing, all the insulation, all that stuff is going to be built off-site. Right. And then you're going to probably use a crane. And I actually had a conversation just to see what it would be like if, you know, I get the question from a client. So part of the calculation is you've got to be able to get that crane over your house. So are there any trees in the way? Are there power lines? Things you need to consider, right? Or access. So if you do have a longer driveway, that could be, you know,
more challenging.
Yeah, exactly. Or it could be easier if you have a wide enough driveway. Maybe they could, you know, bring it in sideways. So it just depends. But if you're thinking about doing ADU, a prefab is a good option, much more cost effective. But they can be completely customized too.
Completely customizable.
Yeah.
I know one of the ones that's on the list that I personally looked at is the Abodu.
And
that's
okay.
a pretty popular one. I've seen clients that have those installed. And
you have?
They're beautiful.
Okay.
And they got craned in, but the process is smoother than building from scratch.
Right. Yeah.
But
the installation at your home is easier.
Yeah.
It's not like you're having people here every day.
You're not watching them work every day. They're working in the factory and they're bringing it over like that. When you see the wide load on the freeway with like the mobile looking home, I mean, that's basically what you're getting.
Right. So when we're thinking about prefabricating, we're thinking of like each wall and then they go up kind of like a puzzle. They're not going to bring like the entire thing, or they usually don't bring the entire thing all in one hunk, right?
Yeah, I think there's different ways. There's like the kits and there's like the totally completely we drop it in.
Oh, is Abodu one that you totally drop the entire thing in?
Yeah.
Oh, was that right?
All you have is like the one I saw at my clients had a concrete perimeter.
Because those are they're kind of long and rectangular. Right. Yeah. Okay.
Which is a whole nother thing. Because for me, if I'm building an ADU, I want it, like the appraiser said, to match my home.
Right.
And so I find that
same aesthetic.
Live in old homes.
Right.
My house is built in the 60s. Like that's too modern for me.
Right.
But again, matching it to the home is so much more expensive because now you're basically building custom.
Right. It's custom. I know. But I mean, I think if what you're looking for is to build something for yourself, but you're not taking away value for your home, I think that's the way to go. You have to customize that. Otherwise, you could potentially be either losing value or taking away value.
It's worth it in the long run.
Yeah. Right.
100%. Yes.
Right. Yeah. And how much square footage do you think is the right size?
Ooh.
I know. It's a tough one.
I don't like big ADUs.
Okay. So a standard garage is 400 square feet. So what do you think is the right size? I see a lot of 600 square feet ADUs.
think 600 max. I think you start getting bigger than that, and you really have to have a large lot, or it just consumes so much.
Right. And that's the other thing.
It feels off balance.
Right.
If it's too big.
Right. And that's the other thing. So a lot of this is the entire picture of your home and whether or not it fits aesthetically, but also it fits in your lot with the rest of your property. So the problem I see with building, you know, more than one ADU on a lot is that you're chewing up that backyard space. And for me, I always tell my clients, green is gold. If you have a big lawn space, people that have kids are going to love that. People that have pets are going to love that. So you need to have some kind of a lawn space if you're thinking about taking up your yard. The only ones who can get away with it are a new home builder because it's new, right? So you're getting a little bit of value there, a little offset. But in general, you're going to want to keep some yard so that you can, you know, have that for any future buyer. And that's going to help to preserve your property value.
I mean, you don't want to feel like when you go into your backyard, you're going from one home to another massive home that's like so close to like a concrete jungle.
Right.
It still needs to feel like a home where you can run around, play, and get that space.
I like how you said, you know, you're in a single family neighborhood. You want to maintain that idea of single family home ownership, right? Yeah. You don't want to fall out your back door and then fall into another
it's like
unit.
Bigger is not always better.
Right.
It needs to fit the space.
Right.
Appropriately. It needs to be proportioned is what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
it needs to be proportional to your yard.
I think same thing as what we're saying about pools too, right?
Yeah.
And then I feel like when we're talking about pools, and we talked a little bit about that last time, it also needs to be proportionate.
Yeah. It's all about proportions. Like, you can't make something, like changing it just to fit it. Just because it fits doesn't mean it belongs there.
Right.
And I think that's where sometimes people are like, well, we're making it this big, let's make it bigger. But is the proportion right for where you live?
Right. Yeah, exactly. So it's all got to flow together and it's got to make sense. You need a space for that grassy area. You need a space for little space between the units, that kind of thing. Yeah. So it all has to flow, like you said. Yeah. Okay. The other thing I want to think about is the maintenance. So when you're thinking about doing an ADU and it's detached, the issue is that whatever you've done on your interior, you're going to have to maintain in that ADU space. So nobody wants a rundown ADU either. No. So if you're thinking about particularly square footage, right? So if we're talking about square footage, you don't want that massive ADU because what you don't want is to have this big space you have to maintain. The larger the structure, the bigger the roof, the bigger the floor, the bigger right?
I mean, as the ADUs get older, right? And the next generation starts buying up our homes with ADUs.
Right.
They're going to be like, so not only do I have to remodel the whole house, I have to fix that whole ADU.
Exactly.
So like by the time you add the square footage, like the cost is just so much more exponential.
Right. And I'm going to, you know, equate this again to a pool. I think we hear a lot of people saying, you know, I really, especially because there was a wave of pools that were put in 80s, something like that.
Goodness, yes, the 80s.
Yeah.
They were all round.
Yeah.
And they were just like
kidney shaped.
They were kidney shaped. They had all the curves, so it's like the space is awkward, and they were about 5 feet from the door.
Right,
and
right.
You're like,
and 10 feet deep, 12 feet deep.
Yeah, absolutely, at least 10 feet deep with a diving board, which is great. But from a cost perspective, that's a lot of maintenance. It's a lot of servicing.
Right.
Our generation is inheriting those.
Right.
And that's like, my clients are excited for a pool, but then they're like, we have to resurface the pool and it's so big. So
exactly. So, and it's the same with a big home as well. So like the bigger it is, the more it's going to cost you to remodel that thing. And I think a pool is kind of like a kitchen. No one wants a 40-year-old kitchen, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that needs to be remodeled.
Nobody wants the 1980s aggregate pool deck.
Nobody wants...
Which I grew up with.
Right.
Which was lovely then. But it's changed now.
And when it's 12 feet deep, it's like impossible to heat up, right?
It's cold. Yeah, you get in and like it's warm, like from your waist up, and then you go deeper and you're like, it's freezing. It's absolutely freezing. We grew up with a 10-foot pool and a diving board, and it was this crazy circular kidney shape with like a waterfall. And yeah, it just, the amount of time it took to heat that and money, it was insane.
Listen, being from the East Coast girl, in my mind, I'm like, oh, California, a pool. Like, that's what I'm picturing. Like, everything is like, oh, yeah, California, it's all warm all the time, pool, fun summertime. The reality is very different.
This is why you have a pool and I don't. I grew up with a pool, so we belong to a club where we have access to a community pool.
Right.
I'm like, not my problem. I pay my monthly fees. It's really reasonable. We enjoy it all summer, even in the winter, but I don't have to maintain it.
Okay,
I don't have to do anything.
In fairness to me, I have learned from the mistakes of the past. My pool is very small. It's kind of a spool, if you will.
It's the perfect size, though. It is the perfect size. I love your pool.
Right, exactly. We have a hot tub. It's attached, so it all works together.
But that is an example of construction done well, where it's proportional to your yard.
Right.
It's not massive, but it's perfect. You
Right.
have a pool on a beautiful sunny day.
Yeah.
You can take advantage of it. If you want to heat it because it's cold and it's the winter, it's an appropriate size to heat without it costing you a fortune.
That's exactly right. So if we wanted to take a swim on Christmas Day, we could. It could take us all day to heat it up, but it'll be warm by the time you're done with dinner. So that is the right size. But I think in general, you can't just like close the door on your backyard and never maintain it again. That's going to drag your value down, right?
Yeah.
So if there's somebody who's like, they're not a pool person and they're like, okay, but I love the home, but I don't love the pool. If it's also a janky old pool, they're definitely going to think, in my mind, I got to rip this thing out or I have to remodel it. And they're going ka-ching, ka-ching, ka-ching in their mind, right?
Yeah.
So relating this back to ADUs, it's kind of the same thing. So if you're planning on doing an ADU, just remember those finishes are going to date. So if you're going to do something, particularly if you're going to try and match the same finishes as your property, you have to keep that up. It's not a one and done. So whatever you're going to do back there, you better make it good and you better keep it up nice, right? Yeah.
You're going to need to make it as high quality as your home, which means it's probably going to be pretty costly. It's not just a junky space. It needs to be appropriate with the rest of the aesthetic and the quality of your home.
Okay. So given everything that we've talked about with ADUs, okay, what do you think? Because you even researched it.
I did.
I have too. I've done a lot of research on it. What is the verdict? Would you put it in an ADU?
Oh gosh, this is so hard.
I know.
Because when we had that office with no bathroom, we wish that we had just spent more money and put the bathroom in the shower.
Okay.
And
yours was it was non-obtrusive in the backyard. It was kind of like off to the side. It was very cute.
We used a landscape architect, so it was appropriately sized and placed. In our new home, we do need a detached office for my husband, so we've been going back and forth. Do we build another 10 by 12 and keep it simple, or do we build an ADU and go with the bathroom and have it just be like a full unit? But my fear is exactly the benefits. Like, I don't know that I want my adult kids to come back when they're older. I don't know that I want my in-laws to be in my backyard or my parents to be in the backyard. I like them half a mile away.
Right.
I like them close.
Right.
But I don't know that I want to share my space. And once that ADU is there, I think that people will want to leverage it because it's there.
So I think it's kind of the same thing as what we're saying about the pool. You always say like, hey, if you put it in and you love it, it's for you, right? Then that is a good use of your money. If you're putting it in and you need to have your parents, they live out of state, out of country, and you're putting it in for yourself, that is a good use of your money. Right.
Right. Absolutely. If you're doing it for you, I feel very strongly that it's the right thing to do. But I wouldn't do it to add value to my home. And to clarify, I love guests.
Yeah, right. Okay. You're not curmudgeon-y.
What I always tell my clients is this: I want my guests to be able to come over to my home. I want them to comfortably stay for a night or two. And after that, it's time to go. I love you, but you got to go. You can't live here long term. So I want my guests to be comfortable, but not so comfortable they never leave.
Don't make it too cushy for them.
Not too cushy,
okay, all right. I mean, a night or two is kind of harsh. I mean,
maybe 3.
Okay. All right. I'm like, dang, maybe a week. I mean, all right, Kristina.
That's because your family's on East Coast.
Right, exactly.
If your family's close, you don't need to stay for a week. But
That's
I get
true.
it. If you're coming from the East Coast, you
right,
don't want to
or
come
out
all
of
the way out here and
country,
stay for
something
3
like
days, or
that.
out of country.
Yeah, right.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not a curmudgeon. I do like people, but I also like my personal space.
Right. No. And I think everyone does, right? Yeah. But I think, if people are thinking, hey, I need this for a kid who, their job is here, but they can't kind of launch at the moment. And this is a good use of pool of our money. That's a good use.
Absolutely.
If you're going to build from
use.
scratch.
If you're building it for personals, you're building it for your adult children. Great. You're building it for your parents or your grandparents, whoever it may be. Absolutely. But if your goal is to just build it to rent it out, like, I don't know that that's the best use of your funds.
Right. So you could add value doing something else in your home, not adding an ADU. I think that too. So in conclusion, what we are saying is don't add it to try and just get money on the open market for
Absolutely.
it, right? That's not going to translate
Do it
necessarily.
because you're going to enjoy it and it works for your family. Don't worry about the resale value now. I always tell people, they're like, oh, is this going to bring you value? Well, who cares?
Right.
You're going to move in 20 years. You're going to have to redo that whole thing by then anyways.
You have to live for yourself.
You have to live in the moment. Like,
Yeah.
we have to stop sometimes. And I know we love to plan and look forward, but like, let's also talk about just living in the moment and what works for you right now.
Yeah.
Like, don't worry about what if later. What if you never sell it? I don't know.
To be honest with you, realtors are the worst with that because we're always like, hey, if this works for us right now, we're going to do it. We're going to find a way, an exit plan if we ever want to get out of it. Am I right?
My clients will say, can I take down that wall? I'm like, yeah. They're like, is it going to take down the value of my home? And I'm like, who cares?
Put it up later.
Put it back up before you move if
Right.
you're really that worried about it. Like, you can make these changes later. Like,
Right.
Do what works for you right now because you're living in this moment.
Right.
And
so back to that property that I was telling you, they put up that wall in the middle of the garage. Great. That worked for them. But when it came to selling their home, just rip that thing out, right?
Just rip it out and make it conventional again.
Right.
Because that's what appeals. You want your home to appeal to the most people. So yeah, if you've got something wonky that worked for your family, great. You got use out of it. Just move it back to the way it was before. That's
Don't
more
spend a ton of
traditional.
money on it. Make it kind of flexible. You can
Yeah.
kind of rip it out if you want to, if you need to sell your property,
Yeah.
right? But we're not going to have it so that you're spending so much money or you're worried about it for right now. You're not going to worry about the future, right?
Exactly. That's what I'm saying. Like, don't worry about the future and the resale. Just worry about now. Like,
Right.
make it a flex space. You can change it back to what's considered typical or normal later if
Yeah.
you need to.
So I think for me, I think I'm kind of in the same boat as you. What I'm thinking is I'm not going to do anything right now. What we have right now is fine. You know what I mean? I'm not going to make it too cushy for any kids. You know what I mean? I think you told me that too. You're like, don't make it too comfortable, girl.
We'll never leave.
Yeah, right.
I
exactly.
love my children dearly.
Right, exactly. But we're
they
trying
need
to
learn to be independent.
We
They
have to
need
launch them.
You know, we've got to launch them. And
Right. They can't be
Yeah.
all snuggy, buggy back in there, right?
Yeah.
They got to be, ready to kind of move out, right? Move on.
Yeah, like I said, I love my family half a mile away. It's perfection. It's a perfect distance.
Right, exactly. So, all right. And then if you're thinking like, okay, if I'm going to do an ADU, one of these choices that we're talking about, there could be a good option for any of those, for attached, for detached. It could be if you need to put it above the garage, put it above the garage, right? If that's what you need to do, if you need that that garage for something else, but as long as that's for you, I think it's always going to be a good use of your money.
And I'll tell you this, when I see homes that are on the market and they've done funky additions, like, you can tell when somebody has done an addition, even if it's dated for personal use versus if they flipped it for sale.
Right.
Because the quality of the craftsmanship in the work, it's just like usually night and day.
Right.
Well, you can tell when someone's doing it for a quick buck.
Right,
Versus
that's true.
something that's dated but very well cared for and high quality because they actually lived that way.
Right.
They did it for themselves.
Yeah. Just don't do anything funky floor plan wise. Like if it's real weird, real wonky, and it's more permanent, like you've spent a lot of money on it, don't do it that way, right? I think that's the worst of all worlds, right? So if you got to like go up this staircase to go down to this staircase to go around the hall to get to it, forget it, right?
Yeah.
We don't want anything weird like that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that if you're doing something and it's done in a nice quality, right? Even if we're not talking expense here, we're talking about but good quality, right? And it's going to be permanent. We're not just throwing up a little wall just to make a little office. And the floor plan is done nicely. Then I think it's worth it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's absolutely worth it. I mean, it's your home to customize. That's what makes a house a home.
Right.
You customize it to your needs and to what you need for your family.
Right. Yeah. No, I think that's the bottom line. So if you're asking us, our answer is do it for yourself. If you're thinking about building an ADU, but you are like, I just want to do it for the money, probably not the best use of your money, plan. Right? Wah, wah, wah. So that's our verdict here. But it was really, I think this is a great topic, right? Yeah, I love this topic.
It's real life.
It is real life. Yeah. And questions that we get from clients all the time, right? Yeah. What is it really worth it? Should I, go through the whole effort of it? And that kind of thing is going to harm me? Is it going to, add value? So I think these are good questions to answer for our clients. Yeah, good. All right. So thank you guys so much for watching. Again, it's Say What You Want About Real Estate. On our next episode, we are going to be talking about 2 great neighborhoods in San Jose. Our favorites. So we're going to be talking about Willow Glen and Almaden.
Yep. Which one is better?
Which one is better? We're going to duke it out.
We feel pretty strongly about it, so I'm excited.
We have opinions. Have you found out yet? We have strong opinions. So, all right. Well, tune in next time. And we'd love to see you guys back and find out what our recommendations are for our best favorite neighborhoods here in San Jose.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for watching. Catch you next time.